Years ago on the sea, a little girl in purple clothes was anxiously urging her mother to come ashore. Her mother was one of the many Hino on the island who made a living by fishing. The greedy mother came ashore only after catching abalone, ready to sell the catch to the fishmonger's son. A nearby Hino asked her to share some with a sick who couldn't dive. On's mom refused. She was unwilling to pity others, at the expense of her own child's hunger. After speaking, she took Asen back home. Angry, she questioned why her daughter came to her house since her ex-husband died. She had remarried and was not responsible for Asen directing her to seek help from her grandmother. Instead, Asun was heartbroken. She wanted to stay and eat at her mother's house, but her grandmother disliked her resemblance to her mother and did not welcome her. Her uncle also refused to give her yellow fish, despite her wishes to stay near her mother. Heartlessly, Anne's mom sent her daughter away. As they were leaving, she noticed her new husband hiding cigarettes for Mano, who relies on holding her breath. Smoking was akin to a death wish as his mom's side. Her husband suggested keeping Asun at home, knowing he wanted her to work and take care of her siblings. However, staying with her grandmother allowed her at least to finish her schooling. She then solemnly picked up a poem Asun had left behind, which won second place. Ace's poem criticized her mother for only focusing on catching abalone, fearing she might die at sea. One abalone fetched $100, and she wished she could earn that to buy a day off for her mother to ease her workload. Ace's mom cried after reading the poem, touched that her daughter understood her hardship. Meanwhile, Asun was preparing dinner for her grandmother's family when Guansik, the fishmonger's son, who liked Asan, brought 6 yellow fish, claiming to give one to her grandmother's house. He brought an extra for Asun, knowing her uncle wouldn't feed her. Just as her uncle took the fish, Ace's mom, furious, threw the fish at him, scolding her grandmother's family for mistreating her daughter. She then left with Asun cleaning her face by the sea, telling her she too wished to spend a whole day with her. She hoped Asen would grow up quickly and give her $100 daily so she wouldn't need to dive anymore. Watching her sleeping daughter, An's mom felt immense relief, knowing only this child truly cared for her. From then on, Asun stayed by her mother's side. One day after school, Asun came home, crying, complaining that although she had the most votes, she was only made deputy class president because a powerful boy's family influenced the decision. Seeing her daughter's breakdown, Asa's mom, touched by her plight, helped her pregnant aunt in the fields under the scorching sun and harvested sesame, all to borrow a pearl necklace for a wedding to support her own dignity. Asa's mom dressed carefully and went to the school to meet her daughter's teacher, bringing a box of rice cakes as a gift. She hinted that the rice cakes were special after she left. The teacher found an envelope stuffed with money inside the box and was very pleased walking home with her daughter. Asun expressed concern about burdening her mother, reassuring her that being just the deputy class leader was okay. Her mom encouraged her, saying it was herself who was pitiful, not her daughter, and that she should just enjoy life that evening. An's mom threw all her hidden cigarettes into the fire, planning to quit smoking because her daughter had said that buying her a pearl necklace would be her first act. When she grew up, she wanted to live to see that day. However, the next summer, Anne's mom fell seriously ill. Other who urged her not to dive, saying they would not let her starve. But the stubborn Aeon's mom preferred to dive than beg, wanting to leave more money for her children. In a fit of anger, Asun burned her mother's diving suit and ran out of the house, throwing stones at the sea and cursing it for not sparing her. Hard-working mother, Guans, came quietly to her side and offered her roasted chicken as she cried and ate. She declared she would never marry Guansik in the evening. Asa's mom woke Asen up and prepared roasted abalone for her, knowing she would not see her daughter get married. She painted her daughter's nails with garden balsam, telling her to go to her grandmother's house after her death, as staying would only mean serving her stepfather. She wanted her uncle to give her away at her wedding. Otherwise, she would cry in heaven with tears in her eyes. Asa's mom lulled her daughter to sleep before passing away at the funeral. Asen was in a daze. Guans brought a bowl of meat soup, and seeing him made Asen burst into tears, missing her mother deeply. Asun planned to leave her stepfather's house, but he said he was going fishing and asked her to take care of her siblings until the tuna season ended. She reluctantly agreed with her stepfather away. She cared for the children and cultivated the land with Guan's help, as the stepfather kept finding reasons to keep her there. Guan's often brought fish and even a garden balm hairpin for Asen. Tired of her life taking care of her siblings, her stepfather hurriedly reassured her, promising to earn money for her to study literature on the mainland, which she loved. Asun agreed. As time passed, Asun worked at a vegetable stall in the market facing Guan's fish stall. She studied there while he helped her with the stall. Bringing her chair and tidying up the who, watched them smiling, feeling that Ace's mom would have no regret seeing Guan's take care of Asen. Guan's mom watched her son help Asen sell vegetables, calling him a fool. The grandmother disapproved of Guan's working for Asun and knocked over her stall. Guan's quickly intervened and sent his grandmother away. He then found Asen helped her change her shoes and quietly listened as she vowed never to marry him. Him, a man who didn't even know classic poetry. She was determined to marry someone from Seoul. Guan's listened silently, nervously fidgeting with his clothes, wishing she would take her hands from his pockets to someone in Seoul. The two went to a canola field, where Asun saw the fish in Guan's hand and mocked herself for not needing his pity or charity. Guan stubbornly turned his head. He wasn't just following her for 10 years. Out of pity, he soon kept asking why, and unable to hold back, Guan took her hand, stepped forward, and kissed her. He wanted to spend his life with her. Asun felt especially happy. She returned home to find her sister missing, so she searched the house and shockingly discovered her stepfather and his new girlfriend hiding in the closet. The girlfriend did not want to take care of Asen and planned to kick her out. Asen asked her stepfather for her college tuition, which he had promised to provide. The girlfriend mockingly noted that he was already in debt and had no money for her. Asun realized she had to rely on herself. Asun reluctantly sought help from her uncle, hoping he would take her in. However, he wanted her to quit school and work in a factory in Busan, offering room and board, plus a salary half of which she would send home, unwilling to be exploited by her grandmother's family anymore. Asun, feeling desperate, went to Guan's and tearfully asked if his family had a spare room and if he could convince his grandmother to take her in. Now having no home but Guan's, she broke down, thinking she would end up marrying a local and living a miserable life. Guan, seemingly foolish, loudly recited her favorite nostalgic poem. Furious, Asun scolded him for making her live with such a fool. Guan held her tightly. He didn't dare approach his grandmother, but instead planned to elope with Asun, taking money from home. Asun also took her stepfather's girlfriend's jewelry and met Guan dressed in her clothes. Before leaving, Asun warned Guan that once they eloped, there was no turning back. They had to stick together no matter what. Guan, fearless, kissed her excitedly and took her on a ferry to Busan. On the ferry, the crew wanted to check their IDs, but they had none since they had run away. Guik, trembling, tried to bribe the crew with a ring. Asun quickly stopped him and loudly declared to the crew that they were a married couple, not runaway kids in Busan. The couple went to a jewelry store to pawn the stolen jewelry. The owner asked several questions, and honest Guan admitted they had run away from home. The owner, suspecting the origins of the jewelry, refused to accept it without money. They went to a motel hoping to use a ring as collateral for a room. The understanding owner thought they were honeymooners and let them stay, even providing 2 bowls of ramen and a bottle of soju for free, encouraging them to enjoy a passionate night. However, when they woke up drunk, they found their luggage gone. They urgently asked the owner, who claimed they arrived empty-handed and even threatened to call the police on them for trying to stay for free. He soon realized the owner had eyed their money and set a trap. Despite their protests, the owner threatened to call the police if they didn't leave, as they had no ID cards. Disheartened, Guan and Asun sat by the roadside after crying. Asun decided to get revenge and retrieve their luggage that night. Another female guest arrived. The owner tried to intoxicate her with the same trick. Asun and Guan warned the guest not to turn off the lights. The owner waited for the guest to fall asleep, but eventually had to go to bed herself. Once the owners were asleep, Guan and Asun sneaked in. Guan went for the cash box and Asun looked for their luggage and her mother's photo as they were leaving. Asun saw her hairpin on a little girl and startled her while retrieving it, which led to their capture by the owner. Guan dropped the cash box and charged at the owner, and both were taken to the police station. The police harshly reprimanded them, hitting Asun with a folder and criticizing their elopement. Later, Guan's mother arrived and first asked about the jewelry after hearing it was stolen by the motel owner. She went to the motel, calling it a dishonest place and driving the guests away. The owner grabbed Guan's mother's hair, and the two women fought until the police intervened that morning. The owner tried to pawn the jewelry, but the jeweler recognized it from the day before and reported her theft to the police. Thus, Guan's mother retrieved the stolen luggage and took the young couple back to Jeju Island. In that era, elopement was considered scandalous and was expelled from school, and everyone on the island soon knew about her actions. Her uncle also scolded her, making it clear she was now unqualified, even for factory work with her past of elopement. No man would take her unless she married Guan. Guan was trying to convince his family to let him marry Asun. His father disagreed with marrying an orphan who had been expelled from school and only had a middle school diploma. Surprised, Guan rushed to Ace's house, finding it unbelievable that while he was suspended, Asun was expelled. The grandmother explained that in their time, a man doing the same thing might be called a hero, but a woman would be shamed. Knowing not to oppose Guan directly to avoid worsening his rebellious spirit, his mother went to Asun using Guan's future as leverage to persuade her not to be a stumbling block in his life. This tactic worked when Guan next visited. Asun refused to marry him. Her family started looking for other suitors for her, finding a divorced man with a child who was financially stable and promised to send Asun to university within 10 years. If she behaved well, he was also willing to fund her poetry publication, provided that she bore at least 3 children. Hearing this, Asun felt hopeless about her future, filled with childbearing. Hanno aunts demanded justice for Asun and created a scene at Guan's home, hearing about On's arranged marriage. Guan brought many fish to her house, pleading with the elders to let him marry her instead, arguing that she should not marry a 30-year-old divorced man, pressured. The uncle said it was On who didn't want to marry Guan, driving him nearly insane. With confusion, it was Ace's grandmother who reminded him to ask what his mother might have said to Asun. Meanwhile, Asun returned with the man she was set up with. Guan pulled her away to a canola field, begging her to marry him, and even putting a ring on her finger. Asun provocatively said that the other man could provide for her education and poetry publication. Guan insisted he could also work hard to give her the life she wanted. Asun feared Guan giving up his athletic potential for her, threw the ring into the field, and rejected him with her actions. Guan asked if he was blocking her life, a question his mother had also asked in private. This time, Asun affirmed it and convinced him to leave. Afterward, she searched the field for the ring, but never found it. They parted ways, and Guan pursued his athletic career, participating in competitions on the day he left by boat. Asun was at a shop ordering clothes. A man accompanying her insulted Guan for being rude that night. Asun defended Guan, which angered the man. He reminded her that her university funding would depend on her efforts. Asun blurted out that she didn't want his money. Confused, the man asked why she would marry him if she didn't want money. Yoon's simple answer was that she had no home and no other choice. As she spoke, her thoughts were filled with Guan's. Asun suggested to a man that he hire her as a nanny. The man was speechless. He felt that his wife would naturally take care of the household chores and saw no need to waste money. His plan was simple: find a filial daughter-in-law for his mother and a thrifty, diligent mother for his 2 children. Asun, driven by a sudden impulse, while staring at a wall clock, ran towards the direction. Guan had left by the time she reached the dock. The ship had already sailed. She ran and called out Guan's name. Guan heard Ace's shouts and begged the captain to turn back. However, the captain would not change course, just for one passenger without. As soon Guan felt he couldn't go on. The only way he could think of to return to her was to jump into the sea. Guan swam towards Asun at full speed. Guan's mother and grandmother watched, regretting ever letting him learn to swim. The couple embraced tightly, finally able to be together for life. Nothing could separate them. Now, 8 months after their marriage. They welcomed a daughter conceived during their adaptations. With their daughter, the couple felt they owned. The world is soon no longer thought about attending university, and Guans never regretted giving up his athletic career and the chance to win a gold medal. Asun had a loving husband, but life with her in-laws was difficult. Her mother-in-law wanted a grandson and demanded Asun bow 3,000 times before a Buddha statue to show sincerity on the way back. Her grandmother threw red beans at her, fearing the soul of Ace's mother might cling to her in her spare time, as soon visited her stepfather's house to see her siblings maintaining a good relationship with his new wife. She often complained about her mother-in-law in front of the new wife and helped with her children's diapers. The new wife gave Asun a tricycle for her daughter. When the grandmother saw the tricycle, she demanded Asun throw it away. Insisting that riding was for boys, the mother-in-law agreed and suggested trading the tricycle for candy. That night, the grandmother took her great-granddaughter to sleep, hinting that the couple should go to their room and try for a child exhausted from the day. Asun lay in bed, Guans feeling sympathy for his wife. Always wanted to help share her burdens, Asun asked him to keep the tricycle for their daughter, arguing that if she didn't stand up for this small thing, her daughter would end up busy in the kitchen all her life. Like her, Asun hoped her daughter could do whatever she wanted, and not just serve her in-laws, but be bold enough to overturn tables. If dissatisfied, Guans encouraged Asun to do the same. Overturned or smashed tables, and he would handle the rest. This lifted Az's spirits the next morning. Before dawn, Asun got up to face another day of red bean baptisms, as her grandmother prayed for her to have a son soon. At breakfast, Guans brought good news. He had bought a new tricycle for their daughter. If his mother wanted to trade it for candy of equal value, he had no objections, successfully securing his daughter's right to ride in her husband's family. There was a tradition during meals where the grandmother and the men of the house sat at the main table, while the other women sat at a separate table. The main table's bowls often had many peas. Knowing his daughter liked peas, Guan sat next to Asun and gave her all the peas from his bowl, announcing he would eat at this table from now on. With Guan's affection, Asun didn't find life in her husband's family too hard and cheerfully saw him off to work every day. Soon after, Asun became pregnant again. The grandmother decided to send her great-granddaughter to become a hu to earn money for the family. Asun loudly protested, refusing to let her daughter become a hu, remembering her own mother's early death due to a respiratory illness caused by diving. Her mother had also warned her never to become a hu or a servant to her in-laws. Asun was determined not to let her daughter follow in her mother's path. This defiance led the grandmother to slap Asun and throw red beans at her. Ordering her to leave, Guans arrived home just in time to witness this scene. He emphasized that Asun had married him to live with him, not to be mistreated by his family. He declared that from that day onward, they would live on their own. Guans picked up their child and left with Asun. The family of 3 rented a small house, living a humble but free life. However, they fell behind on rent. Guans asked the landlord for more time, only to learn that someone named Island Virtue had paid 3 months rent for them. The couple couldn't guess who this person was. Away from the in-laws, Asun was much happier. She knew Guans was earning money through fishing, but didn't know for which captain he worked one day. Noticing Guan's injury and that he wore long sleeves even in hot weather, Asun lifted his pant leg and saw his wounds, wanting to help. She brought a gift to the captain's house, only to find out the captain was the man she had previously met during the arranged meeting. His wife informed her that on the day Guan was injured, the captain had deliberately delayed their return. Forcing Guans to endure the pain, the captain's wife, a kind woman, knew her husband had a bad temper and had advised him against mistreating his workers. But he seemed to harbor animosity towards Guans. Asun argued that wrong is wrong and others should not tolerate his mistakes. After leaving the gift, she went to find Guans at the dock, where she saw the man hitting him. Yoon ran over and publicly declared that Guans would no longer work for him. Before leaving, she kicked the man, cursing him as worse than a pig or dog throughout their lives. The couple lived in poverty, but it was their love that made them overlook everything and move forward together. Years later, as their daughter Gum Yang grew up, she developed a different understanding of poverty. When she reached dating age, her boyfriend's mother, from a well-off family, looked down on Gum Yong for her poor background and insisted that she must focus solely on being a good wife and mother. After marriage, raised by Isun Gang, was not ashamed. She was diligent in her studies and just as capable as her boyfriend. Her life's purpose was not confined to domestic roles. She aimed to excel and advance in her career. Gum Yong decided to break up with her boyfriend at home. Asun was sorting through Gum Yong's shoe collection, commenting on how many shoes she had bought. Yong countered that growing up poor might have driven her to compensate for her childhood deprivation by buying things when she could afford them. Asun sensed her daughter's unhappiness and thought it stemmed from job stress, suggesting she take a break or even quit her job to get married. This advice upset Jumyong even more. She did not want to end up like her mother, marrying a poor man and struggling to make ends meet. However, Asun had no regrets. She married a kind man who filled her life with warmth. She affirmed that if given another chance, she would still choose Gwick. Just then, Guans came home with a lot of peas, Gum Yong's favorite food as a child. This act made Gum Yong feel guilty, realizing her parents always remembered what they couldn't give her and tried to provide more, while she often focused on what was missing in her life. Over the years, Guan's dedication to supporting the family had taken a toll on his health, leaving him with various ailments and less agile legs. He held his wife's hand, hoping to live as long as possible after seeing Asun on-off. He would follow closely, ensuring she never had to die alone after resigning. Guan-sik lost his income. Sor spent his days disheartened, and soon there was no food at home. His daughter Gu Mayong faced hunger too, as soon his wife started to worry. She couldn't ask others for help. All she could do was cry in front of her grandmother. The grandmother's household was barely better off, still in debt. Disappointed Ace soon returned home, unable to sleep, lying awake on her bedding, realizing for the first time how difficult the adult world is. She couldn't endure hardship like her late mother did, nor could she manage like the aunt, who, despite hardships, always managed to eat and sleep on time. Just then, her grandmother's voice was heard. Outside, she had come late at night to give Asun a passbook with the money. Guansik could buy a boat and become a captain, earning a substantial income before Aeon's mother passed away. She had asked the grandmother to accompany her for a final photo and entrusted Aeson to her, knowing her daughter well. She believed Aeson wouldn't trouble her grandmother unless absolutely necessary. If such a day came, she hoped the grandmother would help Aeson for the sake of her late son. The grandmother reassured her daughter-in-law that she would take good care of Asun. Hearing this, Aeson was overwhelmed with tears, vowing to live a good and peaceful life. With the money, Guans purchased a boat and became a real captain. During this celebratory moment, Ace's water broke. Her second child was about to be born. Guans quickly emptied the cart and rushed Asun to the hospital. After the birth of their son, On's relationship with her in-laws gradually improved. Aeson, a kind and forgiving soul, had long forgotten. Being ousted by her in-laws, Guan still worried about his mother troubling Asun, but she reassured him. Having born a son and making Guan a captain, even his mother couldn't be fast enough to appreciate her. Once the in-laws left, Guan shared great news with Asun. They finally had their own home, standing at the doorstep of their new house. Asun felt as if she was dreaming. Guan had purchased her mother's old house. Asun remembered her mother's remarriage from her childhood, and seizing any chance, would run from her grandmother's house through the mountain path to find her mother, who would embrace her warmly upon hearing her daughter's young voice. Now Guan had contacted the landlord and bought the house for Asun, making her dream a reality. With the house, they gradually added more furniture, including a brand new mother-of-pearl wardrobe. For Asun, the family took a family photo at the door. In this new home, Asun became pregnant with their third child. On a hot night, her mother appeared in Ace's dream, repeatedly saying, "The woman next door bought a truck." At first, Aeson thought her mother was criticizing Guan-six's inadequacy compared to the neighbor. After Asun woke up, feeling discomfort in her abdomen, she woke her daughter, Gum Yong, and asked her to fetch the neighbor. Following her mother's advice, Asun rode in the neighbor's car to the hospital where she gave birth to her second son. Once recovered, Asun witnessed presidential elections in South Korea. At the same time, the village was electing a chairperson and vice chairperson with the villagers' support. Asun became the vice chairperson during this period. The government was cracking down on men and women who danced socially. Asun, part of the law enforcement team, searched the women's restroom at a dance training center. She found the chairperson's wife and daughter hiding there, known for his temper. The chairperson was alarmed when the wife, helped by Asun. A restroom window made a noise, while escaping Asun covered for them, taking on the arrest duty and preventing others from following. The wife dropped a shoe during the escape, which the chairperson recognized after successfully escaping the wife, thanked Asun, and shared her struggles with her verbally abusive husband. At home, dancing had become her mental refuge, secretly practiced in her spare time. In contrast, Asun appeared elegant and confident, more like a noble woman, envied by the chairperson's wife, who hoped her daughter would also marry. Well, traditionally, women were not allowed on boats believed to bring bad luck to seafaring men. Thus, Gwan's always took his son on the boat, while as and Gum-yong stayed ashore. Ignoring the custom, Gwan's reached out to them, as wary of the superstition held back. Gum-yong, who was eager to board Asun, didn't want her daughter influenced by such beliefs, and bravely stepped onto the boat herself, breaking the superstition by example as the children grew one day. Ace's young son knocked over a candy jar while she was busy picking up the candies. Ignoring her crying son, a typhoon was brewing outside. Gum-yong's classmate came to find Asun reporting a bike accident with a motorcycle. Asun rushed to find her daughter enter, trusting her neighbor who was half asleep and didn't catch her instructions with the boys. When Asun returned, both sons were missing a hino. Aunt found the older son on the breakwater and brought him home. The younger son, following his brother, got lost. Despite the storm, villagers searched, and eventually, another hino aunt brought back the young boy's body. Overwhelmed by grief, Asun held her son's cold body in the storm, insisting on taking him to the hospital. The tragedy shattered the once happy family. Asun regretted not embracing her son, instead of scolding him earlier after their loss. Asun and Gwan's often lay idle reminiscing about their young son and neglecting the feelings of their surviving son and daughter. Their eldest son dared not speak to Asun, thinking she blamed him. In fact, he blamed himself for not staying home to look after his brother, which he believed led to the accident. Gwan-sik, noticing Gum-yong's perfect test score and a tuition fee reminder, asked about her situation. Gum-yong broke down, regretting her bicycle ride that day, believing it led to her brother's death. At that moment, the couple realized their neglect and embraced their beloved children unseen by them. Both children were living with deep guilt, realizing they had to change. Gwan-sik began eating properly and returned to work to earn money. His first priority was to pay Jum-yong's tuition fees. Asun continued to sell seafood at the beach to make a living, though they had to keep dealing with the sea. Asun resented it for taking both her mother and son. She vowed never to deal with the sea again and often cried at the thought. Gwan-sik, as the strong one, upheld the family understanding that as parents they needed to live well and not let their children live in guilt. Asun confessed to her husband that their young son's body was found on the dike, a place she often took the children to wait for Guy's return from sea. The children remembered that spot, which was particularly dangerous during typhoon season. Guik comforted his wife. Never blaming her, he blamed himself. Tormented for decades, thinking if he had not gone to build a sea wall on the day of the typhoon, he might not have lost his son, filing the death report. Each entry reminded him of his loss, causing him to sit on the floor and weep with his rough hand supporting him. Asun noticed the kitchen full of food from neighbors. The mysterious person who paid her rent turned out to be her stepfather's new wife, who helped as before, moving away. Asun felt fortunate, despite not yet being a strong adult. Grateful for the kind people who helped her grow into a grateful woman in a loving environment. Jum-yong grew up and was admitted to Seoul National University. On her first day, she met her future boyfriend. Meanwhile, Asun found local fishermen arguing with officials. With the Seoul Olympics approaching, the government was clearing Jeju Island's roadside stalls, refusing to leave. The fishermen called for Vice President Asun. Without a word, She lay in front of the demolition team's vehicle, daring the bulldozer to run over her, forcing the team to leave after this incident. Everyone supported Asun in the upcoming Fishermen's Association election to run for president. Guan-sik also campaigned for his wife, bringing snacks to the fishermen he knew to secure votes for her friends. Joked that once Asun was elected, he would become the husband of the lady president, teasing that a man must maintain his dignity. Guan-sik was unperturbed. He had always dreamed of being the first gentleman, while Yoon aspired to be the first female president. The current president was trying to secure votes by treating the fishermen into high-quality black pork and disparaging On's family during the feast, mocking her second son as a fool. Meanwhile, Asun dressed up, went to attend a meeting celebrating her son's promotion to group leader at school. Unexpectedly, she was called to the playground and scolded by a teacher. It turned out that Eun-young had caused trouble at school by removing and selling the English at car badges from teachers. Cars believing that possessing a university's initials could secure admission. Furthermore, Eun-young was conducting other business at school. Acting like a little merchant, Asun was so upset and lectured her son, wishing he was even half as good as Gum. Young, returning from school, went to help at a local restaurant where the president was again hosting a lavish dinner to garner votes, continually belittling Asun, fearing she might take his position. The Hino women advised Asun to fight back and find a way to expose the president's vulnerabilities at the banquet. The drunken president met with a female agent in a private room. The agent wanted to evict the street vendors to allow the Olympic torch relay to pass through the village and increase property values from which she hoped to profit. The president agreed to help her for a 30% cut of the profits. He then made inappropriate advances towards hers. At that moment, Asun burst into the room and stopped them. She then exposed the scene to the fishermen as expected. Asun was elected president of the Fishermen's Association. She hosted a celebration feast for the fish where she sang and danced joyously. While drunk, Eun-young urged his father to stop his mother from making a spectacle of herself in front of everyone. However, Guans happily watched his wife, knowing it was the happiest day for Asun, who had spent 30 years achieving her dream. Evolving from deputy leader to president, she wished she could share this moment with her mother and hold her hand again, despite her tough childhood. Meanwhile, today, a driver came to pick up Gum-young for a tutoring session at a wealthy family's home. Gum-young left without greeting her boyfriend, who had come to the school to see her worried about being late at the tutoring session. The girl didn't even know the simplest English words, was only interested in fashion, and her parents were rarely home. Only the nanny was there, who cooked delicious food for Yum-young and took special care of her today. Surprisingly, the lady of the house requested to see Gayam-young, waiting for her arrival. The lady suddenly produced an exam admission card with Gayam-young's photo on it. It turned out she had not hired Gayam-young as a tutor to improve academic performance, but to have her take the exam in her place. If Gam-young could get into one of the top 3 universities, the lady promised to give her an apartment in Seoul. She assured Gam-young that the examiners had been bribed, and all she needed to do was to take the exam as a proxy to persuade Jae-young. The lady had researched her family background, appealing to her to consider her parents, who were working hard to afford her education. Gum-young, remembering her parents who had taught her to be honest, refused the offer. Angered, the lady falsely accused Gum-young of stealing a valuable diamond ring and called the police at the police station. The police searched Gum-young's backpack but found no ring still. They did not believe her and intended to search her physically. A maid, unable to stand by, took the supposedly stolen ring from the bedroom and threw it under a table, pretending it was found there. She then convinced the lady to call the police to admit the misunderstanding. The lady, thinking the maid was foolish for scolding her, saw her opening a window to throw the ring out, desperate. She rushed to stop her and agreed to call the police. The lady was puzzled why the maid would risk her job to defend a stranger. The maid revealed that she was a former guest saved by Guan-sik and Asun. Years ago, after they had alerted her to potential theft of her luggage, she remembered Aeon's kindness, simply motivated by the belief that no one should suffer theft. 20 years later, recognizing Gum-young, who resembled her young mother, the maid repaid On's kindness after leaving the police station. Gyang missed her mother and called her, but broke down in tears, unable to speak upon hearing her mother's worried voice. Asun told Gum Yong that Gwanz was invited by the mayor to visit a museum in Seoul and might visit her if possible. Hurrying back to school, Gum Yang arrived at the station just in time to see her father, sitting on a bench, overwhelmed. She tried not to worry him and joined him for noodles. She couldn't help but complain about not receiving a scholarship as first place and being asked to vacate her dorm. She knew her achievements were burdening her parents, and despite her selfish desire for more, it only increased her guilt and self-blame. Gwansik, understanding her sacrifices for the family situation, offered her some squid. He had picked out reassuring her to pursue her desires, as he would fully support her. As he left, Gwanz told his daughter not to worry about rent. He would work hard fishing gum. Yong, however, was fixated on the Independent Hall badge on her father's wrist, realizing her politically unaware father didn't understand the mayor's intent in showing him the memorial. It was an opportunity to see his daughter with tearful eyes. Gyang watched her father away from the car and couldn't help but wave back. Gwanz waved vigorously, just as he did when leaving for fishing trips. During her childhood, Gyang said goodbye to her boyfriend, who was returning to military service after his leave. They embraced reluctantly. He asked her to wait for him for 2 more years, promising to marry her once he was discharged. The latest literary poetry contest began, and Asen set up a stall at the event, remembering her own high school poetry competition. The Who Ant praised Asa's talent and suggested she participate. Asun joked that it was a high school competition and she shouldn't intrude. Asun ran into a high school classmate and felt nervous. Not because of the reunion, but because she couldn't bear to look at the son who was about the age her younger son would have been. Gwanz felt similarly, calculating that if their son were alive, he would be 15, and he would give snacks to children of the same age. Meanwhile, a female professor wanted to support Yum Yong from a poor family to study in Japan. Yum Yong was thrilled and immediately shared the news with her mother. When Asun asked about to, Yum Yong responded that, regardless of whether she told her mother, they couldn't afford it just by running a stall. This led to an argument between them afterward. Asen confessed to Gwanz her guilt over not providing better living conditions for their daughter. Gwanz felt useless, regretting that his wife and daughter had to endure hardship with him. Soon the family was moving to the city. Asun placed Candy and the new house address on the windowsill to guide her son's spirit to their new home. On the same day they moved, Jumyong boarded an international flight, tears falling as she clutched tightly wrapped Japanese yen. Her parents had done everything possible to give her the best initially. Anne's mother had hoped her daughter wouldn't live a life like a maid's. Remembering her mother's advice, A soon wanted her daughter to live freely and did her utmost to support Yumi Young's music dreams. As soon sold her house and moved into a small apartment. Gwanz blamed himself for being too poor and making Asun live in such a rundown house upset. He immediately wallpapered the bedroom with floral patterns and enthusiastically asked his wife if she wanted new curtains. I soon guessed Gwan's thoughts and told him smilingly that she didn't care where she lived as long as she was with Gwan's. That was her home. The couple smiled at each other and started decorating their new home together. Initially, Asun planned to open a fish store with 3 Hino ants by pulling money together. But she gave all her money to her daughter and now had to set up a stall outside the fish store. Temporarily, on the opening day of the fish store, they took a picture and sent it to Gum Yong, seeing her mother's lonely stall next to the fish store. Jum Yong couldn't help crying and swore never to steal her parents' dreams again. A year later, after her study tour, Gum Yong returned to Korea and rented a rundown room in a remote mountain area in Seoul. To save money, the landlord was difficult and refused to install a lock on Gum Yong's door. After several requests were denied, Gang reluctantly blocked the door with a wardrobe. Unexpectedly, just after she blocked the door, she heard the landlord knocking madly. Then a man with glasses pushed the wardrobe aside, asking for her help. It turned out he was the landlord's daughter's boyfriend. They were dating secretly at home and got trapped when the landlord arrived. Gum Yong had already hidden the man with glasses in the wardrobe. The landlord's daughter tried to distract her father, but inadvertently drew his attention to the wardrobe, where he caught the man. Meanwhile, Asen and the landlord shared the same anger. Today, Asen heard whispers coming from her son's room and went in under the pretense of bringing juice. Hearing noises from the wardrobe, she quickly called Guans to open it and found her son's girlfriend. Asun didn't blame them, but inquired about the girlfriend's family. Shocked to learn she was the daughter of a man previously conned Ed for an arranged marriage. She was speechless that evening. She took her son to visit the girl's family, leaving the arranged marriage man smoking in the stairwell. Upset, Jumong continued her studies in Seoul and looked for a part-time job on the bulletin board. She happened to meet Park Chango, who was posting a movie poster. Seeing her looking for a job, he introduced her to a ticket-selling job at a cinema on her first day. The cinema owner complained to Jum Yang about Park Chob, describing him as an obscure painter who depicted erotic movie covers as landscapes, never talking back, despite the scolding, but never changing his style either. Jum Yong was just about to ask more about Park Chun-shob when a customer came to buy a ticket and invited her to a movie. Seeing the ring he tossed, she excitedly asked the owner to cover for her and ran backstage to meet her boyfriend. They embraced sweetly, a scene Park Chun-shob saw from the projection room, feeling inexplicably the in-laws at all costs. Asun explained that she was merely trying to prevent future mistreatment of her daughter by the in-laws. Asun advised Gum Yong to consider carefully, reminding her that she was a precious child to her parents and that they would be heartbroken to see her suffer at that time. Yong was determined to stay with her boyfriend and had no plans to break up the boyfriend's mother. Jealous, he started playing the news to interrupt the couple's intimate moment. That evening, Jim Yong's boyfriend walked her home. Seeing the dilapidated and dangerous neighborhood she lived in, he was very worried. Just then, Park Chob happened to pass by. The boyfriend quickly shielded Yong. She reassured him not to worry, explaining that Park was a co-worker from the cinema and that she was fine living there. However, her boyfriend insisted strongly that she move to his apartment in a wealthier area. Feeling her pride trampled, Jum Yong angrily walked away that day. The boss sent Jum Yong to deliver dumplings to Park Chang-shob, who was painting in the basement. Arriving in the basement, she was impressed by the paintings. Suddenly, a noisy argument erupted. Gum Yong quickly hid, overhearing the landlord's daughter mocking Park Chang-shob for being too poor to take her out to a Western restaurant. Park Chob accused his girlfriend of disrespecting their relationship by going on 6 blind dates since they started dating. Just then, a phone rang. The landlord's daughter answered it and spotted Guyong hiding gum. Yong explained she was just passing by, but the landlord's daughter, skeptical, especially upon learning that Gumi Young's job was introduced by Park Chung-soo, accused them of having an affair. Park intervened, asking his girlfriend to speak more respectfully. She was left speechless by anger. A few days later, on her boyfriend's birthday, Jum Yong brought seaweed to his apartment and unexpectedly met his mother. The mother disapproved of Gum Yong's inability to even serve seaweed soup properly, even touching the seaweed with her hands at the dinner table, trying to please her boyfriend's mother. Gum Yong ate a lot and praised her cooking, only to be told the food was store-bought and criticized for her large appetite. Moreover, the mother warned Gum Yong that the apartment was bought for her son and was her property. Hence, she did not want Gum Yong visiting again after dinner. Gum Yong cried in the rain, feeling like a cheap clown. In front of her boyfriend's mother, she asked her boyfriend to choose between being a good son or a good husband, then left crying. Jum Yong took a break from her relationship to focus on work. She noticed an aunt who came to the cinema entrance whenever a new movie was released, telling everyone that the movie posters were works of art. Jum Yong guessed her identity and took her to the cinema, giving her a movie ticket claimed as a staff benefit. Park Chung's mother thanked Gum Yong and praised her son's painting skills. The kind-hearted boss handed the aunt a stack of tickets, saying the cinema would be doomed without Park Chang-seob. His mother, very happy, went into the theater. It was her first time watching a movie, and she was emotionally caught up in the story. Park Chang-seob, watching his mother engrossed in the film from the projection room, sincerely thanked Gumi Yong. She suggested he paint her a painting, joking that she could sell it for a lot of money. When he became famous, they laughed and joked as the movie quickly came to an end, and then they walked his mother back to the store. On the way home, Park Chun's mother excitedly discussed the movie plot with her son. Afterwards, she thanked the warm-hearted Gum Yong, praising her as a good daughter. She would never forget this day at their family copy shop. She gave Jum Yong many English books left by customers and asked her son to walk Jum Yong home. Park Chung-soo treated Jum Yong to noodles as a token of appreciation. Gummy Yang took the opportunity to ask him to clarify their relationship to the landlord's daughter. But Park Chob said it wasn't necessary, as his girlfriend knew nothing serious was going on between them. He was just trying to alleviate his guilt for marrying someone else for money. Jum Yong quickly comforted the heartbroken Park Chang-seob that evening, as Soon went to her uncle's house to prepare offerings for the next day. The anniversary of her father's death, the family reminisced about a dangerous incident involving Asun on a day of ancestral worship. 30 years ago, Asun was chopping wood with her cousin when she spotted a black dragonfly which she associated with a death omen. She tried to catch it to prevent it from taking other dying dragonflies. Chasing it to a bus stop, a disabled woman asked Asun to get change for her to ride the bus. Asun obediently got the change and received a coin as a reward. The woman then asked Asun to go to an alley to exchange more money. But as Asun approached a man, her mother intervened. Realizing a human trafficker was trying to abduct her daughter, as his mother had rushed over the mountain, feeling a sudden unease after learning her daughter was chasing a dragonfly. After confirming the disabled woman had a scar on her wrist, his mother became suspicious knowing the woman had seen On's face and wouldn't let her go in the days that followed. Whenever a female customer came to buy seafood, she would check their wrists, scaring many customers away, but eventually catching the woman and her accomplice, the villagers, learning they were traffickers. Beat them up recently. Soon has been having recurring nightmares. Waking up feeling anxious about her daughter's safety. She's been calling Gum Yong every night, urging her to come home early and not stay out overnight. However, Gum Yong is frustrated with her mother's nagging, as Soon, upset, hangs up and complains to Gwans that although their daughter has grown up in her heart, she remains the little girl she worries about constantly at night. Soon dreams again about the day her son died, because she went to attend to Yum Yong, who had fallen off her bike and wasn't watching her son, leading to his accidental death. Waking up anxious, Asun goes to find Gum Myong and discovers her unconscious from carbon monoxide poisoning. Pale and unresponsive, holding her daughter crying, as she did when her son died. Asun frantically rushes to call an ambulance by chance. Park Chun is also at the landlord's place. He immediately carries Gum Yong down the mountain to get help, because Asun was overly worried she repeatedly saved Gum Yong throughout her childhood. When Gum Yong was sent to the hospital, her boyfriend rushed there immediately. Asun remembered this young man. She eavesdropped on the young couple's conversation and heard the boyfriend had given Jumong a ring, hoping she would move out of her shabby house after marriage. He couldn't imagine life without her and tearfully reiterated his marriage proposal, promising to persuade his mother while asking Gyeong to try to make his mother like her. More unable to listen and any longer, Asun confronted the boyfriend, asking why his mother looked down on her precious daughter. The boyfriend remained silent. Asun retorted that she didn't think highly of him either. 2 years passed and Gum Yong's brother went to serve in the military. At the same time, 28-year-old Park Chung-zab also enlisted without prior notice, leaving Gum Yong feeling lost. She noticed a painting leaning against the wall, covered by a scarf. It was a portrait of her, painted by Park Chob. After 2 years of effort by the boyfriend, both sets of parents finally met to discuss the wedding. Soon and her husband arrived at the restaurant early and waited an hour for the groom's family. As they entered, Jum Yong stood up to greet them, asking if they felt carsick. The boyfriend's mother didn't apologize. Instead, Asun kept saying it was okay. The boyfriend's father reached out to Gwans, who held his hand tightly, not wanting to show his rough hands from labor while the elders talked. Jumong served soup to everyone, only to find a little left for her own bowl. Seeing this, I soon felt sad, realizing that she always ended up serving at her in-laws. Thinking this, I soon exchanged her soup with her daughters. Feeling she hadn't set a good example, the boyfriend's mother continued to dominate the conversation, criticizing Gum Yong for her lack of domestic skills, and suggesting she quit her job after marriage to take care of the family. The boyfriend's father unapologetically handed Gum Yong a bowl to serve more soup. Gwansik looked at the boyfriend knowing that a man should protect the woman he loves. This is why Asun never felt bitter at her in-laws. She clearly remembered Gwans being the first family head to sit and eat with the women. Gwans always showed through his actions that he would be a steadfast partner for his wife. The boyfriend stood up to help. Asun took the spoon from him. Not wanting the in-laws to think her daughter was incompetent, she stated it wasn't that Jumong couldn't do these tasks, it's just that she never taught her to perform tasks meant for servants. The meal was tense, with the in-laws only caring whether Gum Yong could cook soybean paste soup and other dishes they had sent Gum Yong to university. Not to learn how to serve her in-laws. The more Yoon thought about it, the angrier she became. Gwons also didn't support the marriage. Days later, the families met to choose fabric for traditional Korean clothes. Isun liked pink, but the in-laws decided without her and chose a fabric that looked like red bean soup. After making their selections, the three of them agreed to have dinner with Gum Yong's boyfriend, while Gum Yang was picking up her boyfriend. Her future mother-in-law spoke frankly, expressing her wish for Asin to stop the wedding. She described her son as her life's finest creation and could not accept him marrying Gum Yong. She compared On's poor family to trees growing in the shade, which could never match the trees thriving in the sunlight of wealth. During the meal, Asun was unhappy, unaware of the conversation as Yong scolded her mother for being unfriendly. Leading to an argument between them, Yang saw On's compromise and thought her mother felt unworthy of the boyfriend, hence trying to please the in-laws at all costs. Asun explained that she was merely trying to prevent future mistreatment of her daughter by the in-laws. Asun advised Gum Yong to consider carefully, reminding her that she was a precious child to her parents and that they would be heartbroken to see her suffer. At that time, Yum Yong was determined to stay with her boyfriend and had no plans to break up the boyfriend's mother. Unable to sit idly by, confronted Jum Yong, thinking Asun would persuade her daughter. Discovering Gum Yong still intended to marry, she realized that Asun too had been silently enduring hardships. Gum Yong decided she could no longer tolerate it. She told the elder that her past silence was not out of weakness, but to spare her boyfriend embarrassment. She pointed out that while she could consider her boyfriend's feelings, his mother treated her child's life as her property to be trampled at will. After this argument, Gum Yong firmly decided to break up the couple, who had been together for 7 years. Took a year to completely end their relationship. On the night they severed ties, Yang spoke her truth, saying she had always loved her boyfriend deeply, but love did not mean sacrificing her. She lamented how she had compromised for him. Her boyfriend was willing to set boundaries with his parents, but Gum Yong shook her head, believing that if love required such sacrifices, it would only lead to mutual resentment. She did not want her boyfriend to end up resenting her. With Gum Yong's insistence, the former lovers ended their relationship with a hug. Knowing about their daughter's breakup, Asun and her husband were somewhat worried, sighing heavily at the dinner table with somber expressions. The next moment, Gum Yong's voice came from the entrance. She had returned home instantly. Her parents' faces lit up with smiles as Soon rushed to the kitchen to prepare food, while Guik brought a heater for their daughter to warm up. Watching her parents busy themselves, Gum Yong imagined how quiet the house must have been before she entered, in stark contrast to the current lively scene. I soon prepared a table full of food, varying the dishes daily to feed Yong, unsure to soothe their daughter's emotions. Her parents could only think of making sure she was well fed and energized to face the new day one day. Before dawn, Gwons took his daughter Gang out to sea to watch the sunrise. Gang could hardly imagine how her father managed to go out to sea every day before dawn, as waking up early was a torture for her. Gwon's motivation came from his family. His early mornings ensured a comfortable life for them, allowing Yum Yong the luxury of sleeping in Gum. Yong felt guilty for canceling the wedding and embarrassing her parents, but Gwons actually hoped she wouldn't marry into that kind of family and didn't care whether she married at all. Jum Yong disagreed, determined to marry because her parents were happy together as they spoke. The sun rose to Jum Yong. Gwansik was the sun that took care of the family, always making her feel warm. Speaking of the canceled wedding, Asun had never sent out the invitations. Sensing her daughter might change her mind, Asun held her daughter's hand, comforting her that it's okay not to forget, but to pack up cherished memories and keep them deep in the heart to reminisce whenever desired. Gum Yong looked at her mother and encouraged Asun to continue writing poetry, her only hobby which she still pursued daily. Gyang returned to Seoul, opened her windows to let light in, changed her bedding, cleaned the fridge, and stored the side dishes her mother had prepared for her. After seeing off Gum Yong, the couple returned home, somberly moved to tears by gifts of skincare products. Asun's sister-in-law came to sell her products. Her car was filled with various items, being family. Asun bought 2 mattresses, asking her sister-in-law to deliver one to her mother-in-law. The sister-in-law felt awkward as she, being the biological daughter, only remembered her mother when she needed help. Unlike Asun, who frequently cared for the elderly. Asun gave the other mattress to her grandmother on her birthday. Her grandmother was somewhat scared, not recognizing family members, and only knowing Asun as her granddaughter. Asun, grateful for her grandmother's kindness, planned to take her for dentures in the spring. Her grandmother remembered that Asun had also lost a son. A feeling she understood well at home, the couple tacitly never mentioned their deceased young son. In that moment, Asun cried on her grandmother's lap. At night, the grandmother slept on the mattress Asun bought, commenting that Asun was a filial child. In the past, she had never given Asun much, even as little as a small yellow fish. But now her granddaughter was repaying with kindness, and even wanted to take her to live with her, making the grandmother feel her life was nearing its end. Scenes from her life flashed before her eyes. Sometimes life was hard, almost suffocating. But overall, having her children by her side made it a happy life after their grandmother passed away. Asun and her husband went to pay their respects as they grew older. Dealing with farewells became a part of life. Asun was somewhat afraid of being separated from Guans, and they promised each other to face death together. On this day, the couple welcomed their son home from the military. His return was accompanied by his girlfriend. Not only had they reconciled, but she was also pregnant with a new life. Asun was initially unable to accept this, and Guans even considered giving his son a stern. Talking to Park Chung-seob also returned from the military. As soon as he got off the bus, he saw Ahn sitting in the car. He ran after the bus, blending in with a group of fans chasing after a celebrity. He loudly called out for Gum. Yong. It seemed like Gum. Yong heard someone calling her name. Spring was about to arrive for Gum Yong.
Amazing Korean movies are coming soon. If you love Korean films, don't miss out. Hit subscribe so you won't miss any of the new episodes we're bringing your way. Support us with a like. Share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. This video will definitely blow your mind. Enjoy watching. Popcorn and sparkles.